What is going on, Tentacrew? My name is Billy the Squid, and today I want to talk about Soulstice, a game that, at first mention, we thought it was going to be a Souls game. I mean, Soul is right there in the title, and gaming journalism sees a dark, edgy fantasy adventure and hack and slash style combat and automatically goes to Souls-like. But after watching this gameplay demo, I do not believe that this is actually a Souls-like. I think this more falls in line with the Devil May Cry style of style hack and slash. And I want to go through this gameplay first look that we've gotten and kind of break down what has me really excited and a few things that I think need fine-tuned before we actually get our hands on it. But this game looks like it has a lot of promise, so let's jump right in.
No. It's growing. There's something making it stronger. Something is behind this.
There's always something behind some evil portal opening up in the sky. First off, I'm a really big fan of the art style. I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and it's not the most high fidelity graphics that we've seen. But for this style of a game, I do like the artistic styles. I also like the environmental showcase here. It really kind of gives you that feel like you are pushing up to that central point, and it kind of gives you the feel like you're going to be getting to those points as they show up. Also, this screen here is very interesting. And they show a little bit more of the platforming later, but it going from third person camera to a cutaway where you're doing like side scrolling type stuff, I think is really, really neat too. And the first bit of combat we see, it's kind of hard to tell what all is going on. You see these squares pop up. You are watching as the main character, Briar, does several different attacks with different style weapons. The little spirit girl Lute is doing her own thing, but it's very unclear at first glance what exactly is going on. But they do a really good job of breaking this down, and the breakdown has me very excited on how both of these characters are able to fight and work together as a single unit, and how a player can actually control both of them very seamlessly. So from what we've seen so far, we've got 4 weapons of note. We have the regular sword, we have like a hammer axe thing, we have fists, and we have the bow and arrow. I don't know if more weapons are going to become available. I would assume as much, but again, this gives me a very Devil May Cry feel, where you switching between those weapons is going to be pivotal in your success. And building the meter, which we also have not a style meter per se, but a multiplier meter for combos and stuff above. Very similar to the hack and slashes we know and love. So the Spirit Girl Lute will automatically attack on her own as you're near enemies. It's all like close range based. But there's kind of a parry prompt that pops up. Anytime you hear that noise and see the square pop up, that's where you need to input to be able to do counters, parries, crowd control, all of that stuff, giving you kind of a seamless flow between the two characters. One you're manually focusing on, and the other is for guards and counters. And here's another showcase of that kind of side-scroller mentality. And there's some really cool platforming that they're going to be doing here with Lute's powers to kind of manifest things. I think the puzzle options for this style game are really going to be there. And I've always been a fan of that kind of like breakaway camera mode where it makes you realize, okay, we're in a platforming section now. Let's focus up on that and then bring it back front and center in the action whenever we get out of this. First off, there's another weapon there. There's like a sword whip thing that's going on. So there's another weapon for the pile. We can actually quick swap from the axe to that. Secondly, they have like a red and blue enemy kind of mechanic going on where you have to have this blue field up to be able to attack spirit enemies. And later in the demo, they have a red field where you are only able to attack red enemies when that field is up. At first, I wasn't sure the point because it doesn't seem like there's any cooldown or any resource that you need to do to be able to summon the blue or the red field, but you cannot have them simultaneously. So I have a feeling in the beginning of the game, it's going to be big mobs of blue enemies, big mobs of red enemies, just to get you used to the mechanic. And then once you get later into the game, you're going to have to focus on which one is going to be your biggest priority. This is going to give a little bit of nuance to the combat instead of just going in and out, and make it so that whatever your perceiving as the biggest threat is what you need to focus on. Once the red field's up, they pretty well act like normal enemies. Same thing with the blue field, but it does make them, like, if they're outside of that red field, they are completely invulnerable. So loot's not going to be able to do anything to them besides freeze them in place, and Briar is not going to be able to do any physical attacks. It's going to have a nice ebb and flow to the combat, I feel. And then we get a really nice feel for what a boss, or maybe a mid-boss, is going to be like in this kind of game. How a good showcase of Briar doing melee attacks, and then you just having to time Loot's attacks for your parries and your crowd controls. I think it's all very well put together. I think it's going to be very seamless once you get used to it. It might take a little while to get used to, but I do think it's going to have a really nice cadence to the combat, which these style of games need a good cadence to have. One thing that is a little awkward that I've noticed is whenever you do some of the heavier attacks, there is quite a bit of stagger that the game kind of freezes up. I know this is probably to prioritize next inputs and stuff like that, but it feels a little bit awkward. At least looking at it, it might have a really good feel to it whenever you have your hands on it, but it's just something that I noticed. Also with this enemy, once you fell the possessed enemy or the red enemies, the spirit jumps out and you have to kill those spirits. If you don't kill the spirits, they will go back into the possessed enemy and the fight will start over again. One of the coolest things I think that they've done with this style game, though, is the style bar above actually has in-game purpose. Once you get that bar filled all the way up, Loot is able to target multiple enemies at once, and also they get special attacks depending on the weapon that they're using, which I think is really, really cool. It really gives you the push to get those higher multipliers instead of just going for a high score. And then just like the Devil May Cry games, there is a Devil Trigger style mode called the Rapture state. If you get your bar built up all the way, this is the only time that you can enter this state, but once you get your multiplier bar from comboing filled up, you can enter this super powered mode, and it's very similar to Devil Trigger, or a buffed up state akin to that.
Only lasts for a short period of time, but its effects can give Brian Loot a tremendous edge in battle.
It seems extremely good. You have super speed, super strength. Your attacks hit a lot harder than what they normally would. And it seems like each one of these Rapture states ends in a super move of some type that might level the battlefield out a little bit. So it seems very good to build up to these, use your special attacks, and then go into this state to finish things off. I'm very excited about Soulstice. If you are too, let me know down in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel because we will most likely be doing more Soulstice content in the future. But until next time, Tentacrew, much love. Bye-bye.